Welcome to the November 20th, 2018 episode of Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And Dracologist. Good evening.
Hey, welcome back.
Cool guy back again. Do you have any new business?
What?
You'd like to bring up?
I already did my business. I still thought you did your business as well.
That's my business.
What is it you do, number two?
Mr. Number Two. That's my business. It's probably my favorite joke in the entire movie, and it's really,
so
really
dumb.
But that's why it's so good.
I think one of my favorite jokes is like we have oil in Cleveland, shipping in Chicago, or whatever it was, like in a miniature, or maybe it was the miniature factory. We have a factory in Chicago that makes miniature models. A factory.
A factory.
Like, what?
That first one is just so good. The second one's really good too, but the third one's just... Ugh.
Well, the second and the third ones started referencing Austin Powers instead of James Bond.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. I mean, it has its trappings. I mean, like the second one has a lot of Moonraker in it.
Oh, but, for real, yeah.
Even the same set, basically.
Dave,
you know what's interesting? That same kind of set was used for the Kingsman.
Oh, really?
As well. So yeah, you can kind of see it.
And Dracologist, what were you about to say?
Just that those are the types of movies where everyone is having fun with it.
Oh, it looks it. It looks it. Yeah, and the entire end of the first movie is just straight up like Dr. No. Oh, you know what cracked me up, by the way? You know when the place was going to self-destruct and you realize it's not a robot voice? There's like a dude sitting in front of a
guy.
But like, it wasn't in Dr. No, but it was in...
I think it was Goldfinger. Yeah.
No, it was not Goldfinger. It was one of the movies where Blofeld was the villain and Dr. Evil is like a Blofeld parody. Like, obviously, Blofeld was not the villain of Dr. No. That would be Dr. No. But there was a Blofeld movie where the place was self-destructing, and they actually had a guy, like, doing the countdown. I really thought that in Austin Powers that was a joke, and it wasn't. Like, it blew my mind.
It's just a reference to the guy that is saying the stuff.
Yeah, like,
yeah. That joke was actually in the movie Spy Hard with Leslie Nielsen.
Not surprising, but it was still, like, an actual James Bond thing that wasn't a joke, which was weird.
I saw that in the theater. Jeez, to me, the Spy Hard was great because I was a huge Weird Al Yankovic fan back in the day.
Yeah, he did the opening,
and I was just like, oh man, I didn't even know this.
And even the opening where he holds like Spy Hard and he holds that note for like an hour, that was making fun of Thunderball.
Oh god,
because that was Tom Jones like Thunderball, and he held that note for a long time, and I heard he actually like passed out by the end. Like, for real. Like, I mean, if you listen to the theme, like, you can, like, that's a brutal, long last note to end on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, anyway, back to the inanity of this week. What was that?
Well, I think we should be putting this early out on the recent news on the departure of everyone's favorite comics grandfather or great uncle, whoever you would look up to.
Yeah, so we have the sad news that Stan Lee passed away. Not entirely unexpected, but still sad.
He was 95.
Yeah, he's had a rough last couple of years. before that, he was holding up pretty good. He was getting around pretty good, but there have just been all kinds of rumors circulating and all kinds of stuff about his health and his state of being and all that kind of stuff. And he passed away from pneumonia, which is very serious when you get that old.
Yeah, pneumonia is a big deal, like, for anybody, but when you're 95, like, damn.
Yeah, and you typically don't catch it unless you're immunocompromised. So, he unfortunately passed away. I mean, you could say a lot of good and bad about the guy, but he undoubtedly was a huge influence in pop culture and culture in general over the past 100 years. He's made a really, I mean, big impact. I mean, he wrote for the original run of Captain America while it was running, you know, when it was originally created. He did not create the character, however, he wrote for him back in the original run. You know, and he's of course one of the very original superheroes, you know, the big ones. You have Superman and Wonder Woman from that era. You also have Green Lantern, of course. But for the timely comics, which is what Marvel was at the time, he was the big one. And so for non-DC superheroes, he was about the biggest at the time. And was a very, very popular character, and he kept the company going all the way through. He had many ups and downs during when comics were popular, not popular, were kind of propaganda pieces for the American way of life. Were kind of there were a lot of superhero comics that, and then all of a sudden nobody cared about superhero comics, so he kept the company going when it was just like romance comics, really. And then he brought it all back with Fantastic Four back in the 60s.
Kind of ironic if you think about it, that like Fantastic Four was like Marvel's savior at the time, where it's like in movie form it just is poison.
It's the worst.
Yeah. It's like one thing that never consistently never works.
They couldn't nail it. They always tried to shuffle things up. It's like, no, just do the classic cartoons in real life.
Yeah, actually, speaking of which, you know what someone pointed out that I never really thought about, but one of the things that's kind of weird about any of the Fantastic Four movies is that I know it would sound unnatural, but even in the context of the comics themselves, it sounds unnatural. Dr. Doom is just like a straight evil villain, where in the comics, he is so over the top. Like, I mean, the really famous panel of Dr. Doom is when all those like squirrels from Squirrel Girl are attacking him.
Yes.
And he's like, confound these wretched beasts. Like, every time I throw one off, another one comes to vex me. But he always talks like that, though. He's always like, you have not seen the last of Doom? Like, he's so over the top all the time. It's amazing.
The funny thing is, he doesn't see himself as a villain. He just sees himself as getting revenge on.
No, that's fine, but he talks like he's on fucking Broadway, like, all the time.
He's the epitome of a thespian villain.
Although, that said, though, it is ironic.
He's brilliant and arrogant.
That said, though,
fantastic. That's why.
Like, as far as his actions are concerned, I understand why he doesn't see himself as a villain. But like, he's called fucking Dr. Doom.
So, I should go ahead and list a lot of his creations here. I mean, he created and by created, I know there are a lot of people sensitive to this kind of thing, but he co-created all of these. He didn't create them by himself, I should say. A lot of these were co-created with the people who drew the comics.
It was like Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I am acknowledging their input on these things, but you also can't diminish his input as well.
Yeah, we don't want like a Bob Kane, Bill Finger situation.
Yeah, no, he did tons for it, for the industry and these characters. He was one of the very first people to say, "Hey, you know what? These are superheroes second. They are real people with real stories, and the superhero is the attraction piece, or what makes it interesting, but." Actually, what keeps you there is their personalities, and he single-handedly, in my mind, invented the modern comic book in doing so. So and that is insanely important. This was during the era where DC was still doing Bam and Biff and being super campy in the comic books.
And by the way, speaking of stuff like that, this is related, although slightly tangential, but he carries that with the costumes as well. He doesn't just draw characters, or whoever the artist is, he doesn't just want characters drawn in such a way because it looks cool. Like, he also wants practicality with that. Yeah, you might have seen this before, but I don't remember what it's called.
It was with Todd McFarlane and...
that YouTube video where, like, he was basically Stan Lee criticizing, like, basically the Image Comics look, like
it was Eric Larson and Todd McFarlane, and he was making fun of both of them.
Yeah, and like even like we're talking like the characters that have like giant arms that aren't proportionate to the rest of their body. They have like
shoulder pads everywhere.
That can be functional, but like they have like 1,000 like pouches.
Yeah,
but like what are you holding? Like the thing with those characters that have 1,000 pouches, even like Azrael from DC didn't dodge that bullet, but like having 100 pouches or whatever, like, I mean, I haven't read all of these Image comics or Todd McFarlane stuff, but like, do you ever actually see the superhero open one of those tiny pouches and take something out of it or put something into it? No, never. They just have fucking pouches. Like, Batman has a utility belt, but they make a point of him using it, like, when he needs to use it. Like, I'll use my grappling hook attached to my belt.
I heard a good description, and it was when Ben Croshaw was talking about Ward's design from Darksiders. It's like, like the design of this character looks like someone sit down, started drawing, and didn't stop.
Oh, okay. Now I can buy that. Like, no, for real. If you look at like Image Comics, like the '90s Image Comics, like all of those comics that had the same name, like the Simpsons video game, like Bloodstorm and stuff like that. Yeah, Youngblood. Those characters really do have, like, it really does look like they just kind of kept going. Give them pecs. More of those. A little more. And, like the arms again. And their feet are like triangles. It's like, wait, what's happening?
My favorite is the Eric Larson picture of Captain America. Just look it up.
I don't know this one.
Just look up Eric Larson, Captain America. It is going to be the first one that pops up. And he's just straight up like a little tiny tick of a head on top of
was this the one with the body
beef
thrust out that has like the infinitely large like pecs?
Pecs, yes.
Oh, I have seen that. Yeah, it's like muscles upon muscles. Like, get out of here, dude. He couldn't walk at that rate.
Like I am okay with that with the Incredible Hulk because he's supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
But not Captain America.
Captain America is a guy. Yeah.
He's a very strong guy, but he's a guy.
But because of drugs, he doesn't have like thousands of muscles on top of other muscles like Popeye. He
doesn't have gamma ray muscles.
Yeah.
I think the thing that was with that picture was because I think they screwed up the perspective.
Yes. Well, that's actually mostly the problem.
Yeah, that does make sense, but it just looks ridiculous.
Yeah, and
like,
there's one of a girl where it looks like she doesn't have a spine.
Oh, like I watch like Linkara's comic book reviews. That shit happens a lot where they're showing their breasts but their butt like at the same time. So they're turned in such a way that's like, whoa, like, are you a snake woman, or like, is your back broken, or what? Like, people can't do that, or at least not most people can't do that. And also there was like, again, I'm going back to Image with like the Youngblood stuff, but like that helmet that I have difficulty describing, like in Deadpool 2, they had that one guy.
Yeah, I know what you mean though.
What was that guy called? The guy who said he was from Mojoverse. And he had some edgy name. He had like the Rob Liefeld but helmet, which like doesn't. It looks like a kind of a football helmet, sort of, not really, like but but just everybody had that helmet like in the 90s. And
I'm thinking of Rob Liefeld. I'm sorry, not Eric Larson. Eric Larson's a little more toned down.
Yeah, no, that was Liefeld with the Captain America. But like the Rob Liefeld helmet, what the hell was that guy's name? Like
I know
Shatterstar, was that the one from Deadpool 2?
Yeah. He looks kind of like
and he was super edgy,
the Silver Samurai almost, but like
well, at least the Silver Samurai wore a damn samurai helmet like you'd expect.
A Silver Samurai helmet.
Yeah. Ooh.
But anyway, we should go over like some of the characters that he co-created. I mean, like you have
Spider-Man and Hulk, I know.
You have Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four. You have Thor. You have the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, and Spider-Man was one of the most realistic heroes at the time in terms of like having a life. Like, because so many other superheroes are like, time to go out and fight crime, and Peter Parker's like, shit, man, I got homework and a relationship to deal with. Like, I don't even have time to fight crime, and if I do, this is going to greatly interfere with my personal life.
Exactly. Yeah. The original X-Men.
X-Men.
And basically all and Iron Man. So like all of the major Marvel characters, like except for maybe Wolverine, right? So all of the big huge
X-Men, wasn't?
Yeah, but he didn't create Wolverine. So that was Chris Claremont, I believe. But he was he wasn't a villain in it because it's hard to call him a villain, but he was fighting the Incredible Hulk in one issue. That's where Wolverine came from.
Okay.
But anyway, but he wasn't really well developed until he became part of the X-Men. So anyway.
Yeah.
He was the Canadian X-Man when they introduced their international team.
Which is kind of funny because Alpha Flight was already kind of the Canadian X-Men.
Well, then no, they added that later.
Yeah. No, I know, but it's just funny that like, there's also a whole other Canadian like not X-Men group.
Yeah, I mean, they added a bunch of international X-Men in that issue. So there was Nightcrawler was the German X-Man.
Yes. Storm was African.
Storm was well, that's not really a country, but I think...
Well, it's not a country, but she's from Africa.
Yeah, she's from Africa. Let's see here. There was Starfire, I think. That's
that's
Sun.
Well, there's Firestar.
Firestar,
but she's not. She's not X-Men though. No. Japan.
Yeah. He was a fire-based mutant from Japan. I forget his name.
I know that Colossus and Magic is from Russia.
Oh, good call. Yeah, good call.
Yes.
Mr. Sinister is, I guess, Mr. Sinister is English, isn't he? I mean, he's a villain, but like.
No, I think he's German, isn't he?
I just remember, like, this is a lame take on this because I haven't read the comic of his origin story. I just saw like the cartoon, and that might be pushing things. But like, he was at like a conference where Charles Darwin spoke.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, but I'm talking about a specific issue of X-Men where all of these characters popped up. But anyway, Stan Lee did not make them, but he of course started everything, and he of course created and he wrote for all of these. Can you imagine writing all of these monthly comics? Like,
well, that's the thing. Yeah, the fact that like
ridiculous.
You have to juggle all of them constantly and keep track. And like, I mean, again, if the older comics were maybe a bit different, but like, can you imagine pulling that shit off now where everything is a crossover or referencing other things? Like, even in the 90s, there were so many like, aha, we meet again. I remember you from last time we fought. And there'd be a little footnote, like, check this completely different characters. Like, check Daredevil number 100. I'm like, I can't follow all this shit.
Oh, yeah,
like,
Daredevil. I forgot Daredevil.
Yeah, but like, imagine writing all that. Like, how do you even...
Yeah, no, he came up with all of their backstories. I mean, of course, he had plenty of failed characters, but he had all of these ones that stuck. He made enough characters to keep up an entire company. And I mean, it wasn't single-handedly, but he wrote all of these. It wasn't like he came up. He didn't have anything to do with it. He was absolutely instrumental in their success. So it's so awesome that he was able to do all these things. And he also go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just wanted to say that I won't like all these characters we mentioned that almost live in the same universe, and like, why nobody call this? Why everyone call it the Marvelverse when we could call it the Stanleyverse?
Kind
you
of,
could. Yeah, you really could. I mean, he wasn't always with the company. I mean, he was always kind of doing his own thing towards the end, but he became like an executive producer for all of the movies. But there was a time when he was kind of just doing his own thing, kind of like he basically became like a figurehead, kind of like Papa John's was. Papa John was, he wasn't running the business, but he was the main hype man.
Yeah.
As time went on, as he got older and all that stuff. But he also somehow made some kind of really lucrative deal where he became like the executive producer of all of those Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Which is insane. So he was just making money hands over fist, and he probably didn't really do much for them. Other than the creation of the characters, 60 years beforehand, or 50 years beforehand, or whatever. So I just wanted to celebrate what he was. He also was one of the very first comic book writers to talk about racism in a really big way. X-Men was a big symbolic commentary on racism at the time. And
yeah, not to mention with all the different people from different cultures, like X-Men was kind of like the comic form of Star Trek almost, like the original Star Trek, where it just puts everybody together in one room.
I mean, there are criticisms to be made of the time kind of stuff, for sure, but he was also groundbreaking in what he did do. So you have to give him a lot of credit for what he did with these titles, and what he was trying to do was pretty radical for the time. I mean, geez, like you have a major villain who was a Holocaust survivor, and is traumatized because of it. And
yeah, that was a clever take. Like any other universe, a Holocaust survivor is like immediately a good guy just on principle. But like this was a guy who took a good idea of like this is injustice. We shouldn't allow this, but like took it too far to the point where he's just attacking people who didn't do anything.
Eric was a sort of on-off character that he had his own agenda, and those agendas often clashed with those of the Xavier Institute.
Yeah, but
sometimes he was a good guy, sometimes he wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, listen to like what we're talking about here with Dr. Doom too. I mean, like he brought humanity to these villains. When before it was just basically they're robbers, right? They just rob banks and
especially Spider-Man's villains, like they literally are bank robbers.
Well, and all of Batman's villains are bank robbers, basically, So until later on, until the 80s.
I would say the Joker was more of a crazy terrorist type of person, but
eventually, but like he was a one-off villain. He was killed in his first issue.
He didn't kill him.
No, the Joker totally died, but he was popular, and they're like, oh, it didn't kill him. Like, but he was like, I think he was written to die in his first issue.
I read that. I don't remember that, but anyway.
No, I'm talking about the comics where I think he was like I think he got stabbed or something. Like I'm pretty sure he was supposed to die, but then like he was immensely popular, so they're like, I guess the wound was non-fatal then, and they brought him back.
Maybe I read a retconned version of it, but I read that original issue and I don't remember that. But anyway, he did shoot somebody like straight the Joker straight up shoots somebody like in one of the panels in that original comic. He's just like something you don't expect from
40s Batman was dark.
Yeah,
that's not surprising. Like the Joker shooting someone is not surprising.
Yeah, but when you don't, like early Batman, when this is the Joker's first appearance, so there's no possible way you can know who he is. It's like, oh shit, he killed a guy.
Yeah, but I didn't expect that from like a 40s comic, you know what I mean? Like he just straight up shoots somebody.
Yeah, in the 40s comic, like everybody had guns, but how often did you actually like kill someone with a gun in the comics? It was mostly it was like cowboy stuff. It was a lot of bang bang pow pow, but like Joker just kills a guy. It's like oh.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was surprised by that, but anyway, I think he through thick and thin, he was always somebody I looked up to. I read a Marvel history book when I was a kid because I was so enthralled by it, and the majority of it was basically how Stan Lee was like keeping the whole thing together, even when it was in its bankruptcy, and he was basically the only writer on staff during portions of it. I mean, it's crazy what he did and what he did to keep it alive. He kept it alive and kept it going, and now it's like it's bigger than big. Disney owns it. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It used to be at points comics were jokes. I mean, right before the Jim Lee era of X-Men, they weren't doing well. Like in the 80s, the 80s weren't doing well. The very early 90s, and then Jim Lee, reinvented, and a lot of the other great artists at the time, Todd McFarlane, reinvented those characters back in the early 90s and rebuilt it. But then right after it crashed again, because people got crazy into #1 issues and stuff like that. So.
Oh yeah, and then they also had issues like being advertised as collector's items, which means that they were mass-produced, which makes them immediately not collector's items.
Yeah, no. Anything that's advertised as a collector's item is not one.
Yeah.
It's not meant for one people to collect it. It's meant for multiple people to collect it. If you're not making multiple units, then it's going to be very much of a punch-up for it. And we don't want actually that.
But, to his credit, he kept the company going during all of these hard times and all the ebbs and flows of things, and he was always there guiding the company, and even through that terrible Captain America movie from the early 90s. Did you ever see that?
I've seen little clips.
Oh, that's all you need.
The oldest Marvel movie I ever saw was Nick Fury movie.
Oh, the one with David Hasselhoff.
Oh yeah, I never saw.
I saw that on TV when I was a kid. Yeah.
David Hasselhoff is a fun fellow, I think. He was part of my childhood in Knight Rider, so you can blame him. And it's like he recently reappeared as like in Kung Fury for all things.
Yeah.
And in SpongeBob before.
Yeah, he had some interesting roles for sure. Post Baywatch, he had like a Baywatch like detective show for 2 seasons.
Yeah, Baywatch Nights.
Yeah,
like that's one of those things. Even if you didn't know what it came from, you may have seen parodies around of like the title you already know, Nights. Like it was from Baywatch Nights.
Well, what's so funny is like. It was a pretty well-grounded, TV show, and then they eventually added X-Files-y kind of stuff to it. So apparently, the Baywatch universe has supernatural elements.
Well, that's the thing. That's the best part. Is it actually? I know it's called Baywatch Nights, but yes, it is in the Baywatch universe. Yes, the man who's a lifeguard all day is a detective also all day. I don't know how that works at all.
Not to mention that it's an extremely flawed logic that nobody watched Baywatch because of the characters.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
We watched them for the boing.
Exactly.
The gratuitous slow motion.
It was the #1 show in France for a reason. It wasn't because of the English and the acting.
And I think if you want DVDs of the show, I think a lot of the files I've seen of someone who's been reviewing Baywatch has been with German subs and stuff. So I guess Germany really latched onto it as well.
Oh yeah, no, it was very big in Europe. It was very big in Europe. I mean,
we watched it in Hungary. We don't know. At that time, I was a little bit too young to notice that was there for the milk jugs. But
you were like, I hope they save that person this time, and they're and the show's all right, buddy, calm down.
To me, it was more is a background, sort of this background noise to watch.
Do they need to run into the water every time? I mean, come on. But I digress. Stan Lee, I'm gonna miss his attitude towards comics and his lust for them. He certainly had the passion. He lived and breathed what he did. and you don't get folks that are that talented, that have that much passion very often, and that encapsulates an entire industry. I mean, none of the DC guys from that era, those early eras, hold the same clout as the name Stan Lee. He was Mr. Marvel.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. Like with DC, I already said Bob Kane, but like even then, you're like, oh yeah, the Batman guy, but there was no DC guy.
No, and you'd be hard pressed to come up with a guy who's the DC guy. I mean, there's plenty of people that were made famous during those times, but they aren't an encapsulation of an entire brand like he was. He was Marvel, He was at the epicenter of all of what was popular and what was great about it. So I do have to say that I will miss him, and apparently he got one more cameo out for the the next Avengers movie, the Infinity War 2. So
how appropriate, because that's like a good conclusive arc.
Yeah, not only that, but like, what are they going to do after that? Jeez. But anyway, plus there's a lot of things in flux right now. I think Chris Evans is hinting that he won't be Captain America anymore. Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy is basically toast until the James Gunn stuff gets resolved. So there's a lot of stuff going on with that universe that who knows what's going to happen post Infinity War. But I mean, you have some new characters coming. You have Captain Marvel, of course, coming, but with Brie Larson, which is looks really neat. But we'll have to see, right? So anyway, rest in peace, Stan Lee. I had a fantastic childhood and adulthood because of you. So I really want to thank you from me specifically. So in other news, there was a lot of little stuff, but I think you have a particular topic that you wanted to go over, Lotus, that I think you will take up a chunk here.
Yeah, real quick. This kind of came out of nowhere. This surprised me, but Games Done Quick had a mini event a couple of weeks ago. I didn't know about it because I guess I missed their tweets, but all of a sudden I see their YouTube channel start uploading speedruns, and I'm like, what? And it turned out that from October 26th through 28th, there was GDQx, or Games Done Quick Express. So it was like I said, it was 3 days, not a full week, because it took place over TwitchCon. So suddenly, more speedruns. Like that's awesome. And they're still doing the donation incentives and everything, and it was handled just like any other GDQ. It was just more compact. Although one thing I want to point out that was kind of cool was that this is, I think, a first for GDQ at all, but they actually got like a sneak peek at like an upcoming game because they had speedrunners run a game that wasn't out yet. So 3 speedrunners, or well, it was a race, so I guess it was 6 speedrunners, right? One racing another, and then one racing another. I actually haven't watched the other 2 races. It might have just been the same 2 speedrunners doing all 3 games, but in any case, they did a speedrun race of the Spyro Reignited trilogy.
Oh, cool.
Before the game was out, so you got to see a full, I mean, not 100% speedrun, but like just make it to the credits as fast as possible speedrun of all 3 of the new Spyro games, which is pretty rad. And from what I hear, it's a faithful remake, so if you know old Spyro, you are going to do very well with new Spyro. So it's like, it's Spyro again, just with much better presentation and probably tighter controls. So yeah, sneak peek of Spyro at TwitchCon, Games Done Quick Express. It's pretty rad.
Yeah, I think that's really neat. I mean, I really want to play the Spyro collection because I never really played those when I was a kid. And I kind of missed them, and a lot of people really loved them. Yeah. And they were kind of like one of the major platformer for PlayStation 1. So other than Crash Bandicoot, I was never a huge Crash Bandicoot fan. I liked playing them, but I always was I got very angry at those games because
they're brutal.
Not only are they very brutal, but to 100% them, you need to do some ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
You need to not get hit at all, and collect all those crystals, and it just pissed me off as a kid. So I never played it enough in order. But Spyro's more my style. What was that?
Playing Dark Souls, don't get hit. Oh, come on.
Yeah, Dark Souls 2 actually has a reward for not getting hit, but for not dying, and it's like, get the hell out of here.
I actually, by the way, I made some progress in Dark Souls.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I gave up on trying to fight the Four Kings for the moment because there was a couple things that I wanted to take. I wanted to level up a little bit more to make it a little easier. So I left that battle. I can go back to it at any time.
Yeah.
But I ended up going through the demon ruins.
Okay.
I ended up fighting all the bosses there.
So did you unlock the shortcut to Solaire?
I did. I haven't talked to him, so apparently he's at the. Well,
you left him at Orlando, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, regarding Solaire, did you kill the bug that dropped the sunlight maggot?
I did.
Oh,
yeah.
So you saved him. Just talk to Solaire, and you'll just go through his quest. Then you're good.
So I need to go back to Orlando and talk to him.
Because what moves him from place to place is talking to him and exhausting his dialogue.
Okay.
So now you just go through the motions. So I think he'll go from Orlando to. Wow, I forgot where. It might be the entrance of Lost Izalith.
I think he goes to the Sunlight Altar.
He does, but I don't think that was a necessary place to talk
interaction.
To him. Yeah. But yeah. So you can advance him now, which is pretty cool. But once again,
I did the major story thing that I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to save him. So.
Yeah. So once again, do not beat Lost Izalith until you talk to the Pyromancer in the swamp, and she asks you to beat Lost Izalith.
Oh, okay. You mean
Quaylana?
You mean the Chaos Bed? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, Bed of Chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, I that's the only thing I haven't done there yet.
Good,
so I need to go back.
Yeah, so wait till Quaylana asks you to kill like her family, and then beat the Bed of Chaos.
Oh, okay. Because I did beat the Centipede boss.
How crazy was that?
It was nuts because. It was a very difficult fight because you start off at a major disadvantage because
you're surrounded by lava.
You need to get to the major part of the arena where you could stand.
Yeah.
And so I needed to put flash sweat on in order to get to it, and then also heal a whole bunch. Before
I just stayed at the entrance. I fought him at the entrance. Because, I couldn't really move. The thing is, if you cut off his tail, he'll drop that ring that lets you walk in lava, so you don't have to kill him for that. Like, if you cut off his tail, you get it, then you can fight him for real next time, maybe.
Yeah, no, I cut off his tail, actually, during the time in which I was able to beat him. So
there you go.
I cut off his tail by going through his legs.
Oh, by the way, now that you have the sunlight maggot, you should
wear it as a hat.
You should have... What?
You can wear it as a hat.
Well, yeah, there's I told you there's one part of the DLC where you need to put it on for a second to open a secret wall. So,
okay.
So now you're ready to handle the DLC.
Oh, okay, cool.
Did you ever go to the Duke's Archives?
I haven't gone there yet.
All right, because right in the beginning of the Duke's Archives, you'll see a blue crystal golem that'll drop the thing that lets you enter the DLC.
Gotcha. All right. Well, it seems like I need to make the trek. I need to warp back to the to Blight Town, but I am making progress. So
yeah, sweet.
I killed a couple bosses and
yeah. So you got that. You got the third asylum demon.
Yeah. He's almost exactly the same as the other two. He's just a different color.
Yeah.
He doesn't even really do anything like flame related, which is kind of funny.
Not really.
Yeah. So anyway, so I did want to move on here. So for any last bits about GDQx?
Not really. I just wanted to announce that it existed. and which implies that it might exist again in the future, which would be great. And yeah, just sneak peek at Spyro. So if you actually watched it live, then you really would have gotten a sneak peek well ahead of time, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. The graphics look really good for it.
It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a really well updated.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say two things. That I can't wait you guys to start playing Bloodborne, and secondly, I'm really curious. I still want to kind of say I really would like to see these speedrunners getting their axe stick into Helios or Helios. I don't know how it is spelled.
No, I don't know.
Is there a way to request games or something?
That I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know that game in particular.
I think I told you about it. It's like this top-down maze puzzle action game.
But
you control that.
But like as far as game done. Sorry, no, go ahead. You were describing Helios.
I just wanted to say that it's a game about where you navigate sort of this maze-like levels, and the point is that you are controlling what appears to be some sort of weird balloon-like structure.
Mm-hmm.
And as you move, you expel air, and as you move, you shrunk. If you run out of air, you die. You can find stations to fill yourself up, but if you overload yourself, you die too. And there are various little mechanics added to the game, but just the first level is like you have very much a lot of inertia and low friction, so you bounce around a lot.
Real cool.
Yeah,
that sounds like some interesting mechanics there.
What I was gonna say what I was gonna say about GDQ is that like I don't know about requesting individual games, but speedrunners, like from what I'm aware of, at least older GDQs, they would link the GDQ staff or whatever to their speedruns like on YouTube or Twitch of some games to like as basically like tryouts. So I don't know if you can request a game because you need a speedrunner who has done it and is worthy of joining the event.
Yeah. They don't do them like off the top of their head, right? They always have.
Oh, not a chance. These people have like obviously played these games for like hundreds of hours.
The reason why I would request it because it's a remarkably difficult game.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to request it, you'd basically have to find a Helios speedrunner and ask them to request to be on GDQ. Like, you can't just say, you can't just shout out a game and they're like, oh, sure, I'll put, like, a whole lifetime's worth of effort into that. Like, it's, like, impossible.
Well, I would be happy if they just would go through the, 1 out of 12 levels, like the first let's see how they can deal with level 1. And that's just a simple maze. Like, you have to find just the given sort of pickups and go to the exit.
Well, I mean, it would be interesting to see, but you'd pretty much need to have an actual speedrunner of Helios. The only time I've ever seen blind runs is when people who are extremely experienced at Super Mario Maker are given levels they are not familiar with, because you know they're going to be good enough to be able to beat them eventually. But, like, I've never seen, like, I have no idea what this game is, let me try speedrunning it.
The other game I wanted to say, that I not exactly I would force this onto because this would be Poppin because it's completely dickish. Like that game, but not Poppin. Is it called? What was it? Anyway, it's a game. It's a puzzle. Again, it's a puzzle game where you sort of match shapes and something, and some of the levels are straight up just ass.
The closest I've seen the closest I've seen to puzzle games are that oh, for God's sake, what's that maybe it's Pokemon Puzzle League and like Picross.
Anyway, so if both of these games like Helios and Bopin or Beepod, whatever it's called, can be watched, sort of this review of it on what's it called? Accursed Farms.
Yeah, I mean, like the best I can recommend is like searching YouTube or Twitch for Helios or that other game and seeing if someone does it. Maybe not a GDQ, but like if someone does it at all.
Or Getting Over It with Ben Foley.
I have seen that speedrun.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, no, take a look. There are lots of speedruns of it.
Oh, I need to do that.
Walking Simulator speedrun. Oh god.
So anyway, wanted to go over a few other things. One quick thing that I didn't even put in the notes here. I did want to mention how everybody seems to be loving the Tetris effect. Have you guys been following this at all?
I have paid zero attention to it, except that I hear it's a spectacle and people like it.
So the Tetris effect is made by the same team who made Rez, and apparently people are saying it is the best version of Tetris ever made. Maybe not from a competitive standpoint, but from just an experience standpoint.
Sure.
So basically, from what I gather, it's very similar to Lumines, which is their own game that they came up with on the PSP. And way back when, and Lumines was very much a music-based block puzzle game, but this is like they basically got to mix their vision with the original OG block puzzle game, and apparently,
columns.
Yeah, Hatris.
Wanted to say the new Tetris game. Like I'm still looking for that one specific Tetris game from the DOS era called Drac, which was like a very very unique style of like. There was a lot of various things that the tiles had. Like there wasn't just like L shapes and S shapes and boxes of Tetris blocks, but each block had a various mineral from it.
Oh,
and
wow.
each of them did something different.
Yeah, I mean,
like some. Yes.
I don't know if it was mentioned in this, but there was a really nice Digital Foundry retrospective on Tetris, and like all the versions of Tetris. I don't know whether they mentioned it during that, but you might want to start there. There's like a lot of DOS versions and stuff that they went over. But I don't think they did many spin-offs or
games that weren't
like that.
called Tetris.
Yeah.
And one of the other things, like there was, just wanted to mention that rhythm music based block game. I only think that there was this strange flash game where you somehow playing this color based Breakout and Snake.
Oh wow!
Like
that sounds like
fun.
fun.
A snake. It's difficult, and every time you hit something, like the key of the tone you hear in the background changes.
That's cool.
And it adds more to the beat of the background as you destroy more tiles.
Well, just like Rez and Lumines in Tetris Effect, every time you move a block or cause it to rotate, it adds to the musical score.
Playing the game contributes to it. Yeah.
And
I'll look it up for you when we're finished.
Sure. And what's great about it is that it doesn't just get faster. You know how like typical Tetris games just get faster. Like it goes along with the music, so like it sometimes it'll get more intense, and then it'll give you some relief and change the song that that it's playing. So it looks really neat. I really want to get into it. I just have to wait until I can afford to buy something like that right now. I don't buy too many AAA games, and that's definitely a AAA game now. So I believe it's a $40 title, which I think for the production is worth it. I just need I need to
but can you wear the vibration suit when you play it?
No,
it's mine.
It's mine. But I need to definitely sock some shekels away for it for sure.
Shekels?
Neo shekels, yes. Zobbers.
I'll show you Zobbers.
I have a couple other announcements here. So M2, who are basically the masters of classic gaming at this point, and classic compilations and remakes. They're like my favorite company right now. Apparently, they have a ton of people from like all the old shmup companies making stuff there and like porting their old games to new systems and all kinds of stuff. They also have a bunch of people like from Treasure and other like who's who of like awesome old video game companies like Taoplan and Rising and all this other stuff, all the and Cave. Apparently they have like a whole bunch of people from all of these old shmup companies working there now, which is insane to me. And M2 has done some really great emulation work. Every bit of emulation that they have ever done has been fantastic. And I'm a huge fan of theirs. They're the ones putting out the Sega Ages collections, and especially the most recent two that have come out on Switch in the United States. That would be their version of Sonic the Hedgehog and their version of Thunder Force 4. Which are masterful. Both of them are great. They are putting out. They just announced that they're putting out 2 more shmups to be later released. One of them has never had a console port ever, and it is called Esp Raid. I don't know if you guys have heard of Esp Galuda, which is a cave shmup for the Xbox 360. Is that ringing a bell for either of you?
Basically, I don't know Cave, I don't know shoot 'em ups, and I don't know the Xbox 360. So that is a resounding never heard of it.
I know Cave. I don't care about Xbox, but I don't play every Cave.
Like Cave, I've heard of that. Like one of the most famous games they've done.
Mushihime-sama.
Okay, I have heard of that. There was like one other one.
Dodonpachi.
I guess I've heard of that only because of you.
Yeah.
Death Smiles. That's the one I've actually heard of.
Death Smiles. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So you know more than you lead on.
3 things.
Well, I mean, for a small company,
All right.
Come on, I mean that.
But even then, Death Smiles, I think I would have heard of on my own. But like the other 2 are really only. Well, Mushihime-sama, I discovered it on YouTube just because it was like hardest shooter ever. I was like, what's this? Dodonpachi I've only heard of because of you.
Okay, well, fair enough. But anyway, these games have always been very difficult. They are the prototypical. Essentially the number one company, like Cave is like the number one company that like shmup players really gravitate towards.
Yeah.
They make a very specific kind of game though, so it's not for everybody. Essentially, they make moving bullet mazes that you have to dodge.
Pretty much, yeah.
And very complicated systems.
Yeah, a lot of games, it's like this is where you're not allowed to go, but with cave shooters, this is where you are allowed to go.
So
I stick with what's it called? I stick with Tyrion.
Yeah, Tyrion's a cool game, but it definitely feels like a Euro shmup to me, for sure. But
that's a different breed of shooter up.
Yeah,
it would be interesting to see like some sort of mix of the 2.
Yeah. I mean, Tyrion's probably the best of its type, for sure. It's one of the best Western style shmups out there. Jets and Guns is another good one, and the one that you like that by Apogee is really good. Lotus.
Raptor Call of the Shadows.
Yeah, that one's pretty fun too.
That was so funny to me because like you and Pyro Jack Frost are like the shooter guys, and then I come up and talk about Raptor and you've never heard of it. Like I know what, like I don't even like shooters, and this is the one shooter I've ever played that I'm like will repeatedly play. And you've never heard of it. It's like, whoa, because it was on like Windows.
Well,
I know Raptor, but I didn't like it much. Like when I played it on modern, I replayed it. I find that again, as I think I said it before, that my nostalgia glasses went off very, very quickly.
You're a little slidier in that game, I remembered, but otherwise, it pretty much is exactly how I remembered. So I was like, yes. Well,
anyway, I did want to mention that S-Broad raid coming is really cool because it was one of the best shmups of its time. It was a really fun game, and you play as like a humanoid character that's using like telekinesis. and it's a lot of fun. It's a good game. Definitely one of the games that people have always wanted a console version of, because its predecessors or its progeny, I should say, Espgaluda and Espgaluda 2 did get console ports on the PS2 and Xbox 360 specifically, and I have them, so it would be good to finally get the lost one out of the bunch. So looking forward to that.
Especially Raw Day.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, there is also another game that they announced, which was totally out of the blue. Another company that made really good shmups back in the day was Compile. Are you familiar at all with Compile at all?
I've heard the name, but I'm not sure if I know what they've made.
So,
I never heard of that name. Say a title and maybe I find it.
Okay, Compile's made a lot of famous titles. Probably their most famous title is Puyo Puyo.
Okay.
Before it was bought out by Sega, and they made Zanuck and Gunnak. If you know what those are, Guardian.
I heard about Zanuck.
Yeah,
that's funny because I've heard about Gunnak.
Gunnak's the one where you fight the rabbits on the moon, the rabbit robots on the moon. They've also made a game called Musha for the Genesis that is a popular shmup. So anyway, the last game that Compile made, they also made a series called Spriggan as well.
Heard of it.
I heard about an anime called Spriggan. But
yep, same thing. Yep.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
It was, of course, a run and gun style game.
No, it was a shmup.
Okay.
They made this series called At Least was their major shmup series, I would say, and there hasn't been an entry in the At Least series since the Game Gear. Apparently they are making a brand new one, a brand new At Least game, which is awesome because all of the games are good. They were on a lot of different systems back in the day. There was even At Least games for the Sega Master System, the MSX computer systems. So these games are really, really cool. They were well known. This company was well known for making their games extremely hard for back in the day. They had an AI that would adjust the difficulty of the game depending on how you played it, so that you had to adjust the way you played. You could not play the game the same way all the time.
You might even intentionally die to make the game easier, I guess.
No, you're thinking of Battle Gorega, which happened later, but it's the same idea. Battle Gorega got harder the better you were. Yeah. This game switches up how it throws the enemies at you and what enemies it throws at you.
Okay.
So it's a bit different, but it's the same concept, if that makes sense. So anyway, I'm excited because it's another shmup in a really celebrated shmup series by a company that I trust to do well with it. So really, really looking forward to that. If those games ever come to the United States, I would be even happier. Though we can pretty much buy Japanese games pretty easily now, the digital ones. But I still want them in English in the best of circumstances.
Spread the word. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see. What else do we have here? The OSSC had a major update, and I wanted to talk about that really quick. So the OSSC is the alternative to the FrameMeister, which Lotus and I talk about quite a bit.
The upscaler devices, for in case you didn't know. So the idea is you can hook up your old video game systems to it, and it could display them in 720 or 1080p on HD TVs without having to worry about input lag or weird stretched images or whatever. So it's kind of like the best way to play your old systems outside of a CRT TV.
Yes. So the OSSC is the major competitor to the FrameMeister. The FrameMeister has been around longer, and is a little bit more user-friendly, I would say, at this point. But the OSSC is getting to the point where it is the major upscaling device now. They just added like one more batch of features that really upped its game on what it could do. So I would say that if anybody is looking for an upscaler right now, do not go for the FrameMeister. It's going to be soon out of production, and therefore there's not going to be any support for it very soon.
Not to mention the OSSC is like far less expensive anyway.
It's far less expensive. All of the documentation's in English.
It
is made by somebody who speaks English.
The FrameMeister is Japanese only, so like if you want to understand what your remote control does, you can actually buy an English overlay for the remote.
Yeah.
Like that's the level we're talking about of not user friendly. Like out of the box.
Well, I mean, what's also kind of funny is the OSSC does use a generic universal remote as its remote, so it does also still need an overlay.
Oh, that's
on
funny.
Its remote. But so don't sell that as a selling point. But
all right, never mind.
But you can get it easily. You can get the overlay a lot easier than the FrameMeister's overlay. But anyway. The OSSC functions better than the FrameMeister in almost every way now. It has less lag. I think it has 2 frames less lag, 2 to 3 frames less lag in most situations, and and that's mostly because it does not really upscale like the FrameMeister does. It goes like the FrameMeister goes through a whole process when it processes an image. The OSSC basically just blows it up.
Okay.
So it's a much faster process, if that makes any sense. So it gets it to the size it needs, and one of the major drawbacks was that you needed to enter in profiles with the OSS. Like the FrameMeister has profiles that you could drop into it.
Yeah.
That can be specifically set up for the systems that you want to play.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it very easy. You just select them. And Firebrand X has made those for it. And,
I was going to say, it can be difficult to tweak the settings just the way you want, but there is a user who has already done that, so you could download those profiles, put them onto a micro SD, and then go into your, call them whatever you want, and then go into your FrameMeister and go like, oh, I want my Super Nintendo profile, press enter, and the scaling is appropriate for that, yeah.
So what came about in this one was, so you could set up profiles, but first of all, you couldn't label them in the old version of the OSSC, and I don't think you could download them. Like, you had to, make them in
so
it.
you'd have to watch, a YouTube video on, how to tweak them?
Well, you would essentially need... Firebrand X made profiles for the OSSC, but you'd have to, input them manually.
Read his parameters and type them in yourself.
Exactly, it's a big pain in the ass. So it got a major update which allows you to have 15 profile slots.
Okay.
Name them, and you can download them now and put them on there.
That's actually... it's funny because it sounds like such a little thing. What about the upscaling? But that's actually a really big deal.
There's also an automatic input detection feature, which is excellent.
Yeah.
So that means that when you power up a system connected to the RGB SCART connector on it, it will know that you are playing that input, and it will just turn on. And you don't have to select it, which is awesome. What else is there? There's a specific preset already built into the OSSC with no extra profile added or anything for the Game Boy interface for the people that want to play that from their GameCube to play the Game Boy player, which is awesome. And there are some really nice optimized modes for certain versions of games. So really, really cool stuff. If you are into this kind of stuff, it is a good time to get it. It is a very mature product at this time. I would say that I bought it at a good time too, but it is even better right now to buy it. I wouldn't say, with these kinds of hobby things, sometimes you go, okay, I'll buy it when the bugs are all worked out, or when this feature's added or that feature's added.
Yeah.
It is a very good, solid product right now.
Yeah, not only that, but like with the FrameMeister and I assume the OSSC, like you could just download a firmware patch, put it into a micro SD, and patch the thing yourself. You don't have to wait for the company to release the new version. Yeah.
Nope, you can do it all yourself, and there's a lot of support for it. People, you can ask questions. There is a whole giant wiki supporting it, and it's under $200. I think it's $160, something like that.
Oh, that's actually even cheaper than I thought. I thought it was like around 200. So like, yeah, that's like just for context, the FrameMeister was like closer to like 400. I think it was rough. It was rough as hell.
And this is handles everything better in terms of image quality and all kinds of things like that. So definitely, if you want to get into this kind of thing, I can understand wanting to wait until a lot of the FPGA systems are out. That might be a thing you might want to do. But for everything that won't get an FPGA system, or if you want original hardware, this is the thing.
Yeah, and speaking of which, the FPGA systems are going to make me very happy because, like with the FrameMeister and even the OSSC, like you said, you have 15 profiles. I forgot how many the FrameMeister has, but it was like something like that.
Yeah.
But like, depending how many systems you have, this is like the most first world problem on the fucking planet. But like, you might run out of profiles. So like, if you have the analog NT, or if you buy a Super NT, or now this Genesis thing which automatically upscales, or if you have the N64's mod that makes it auto upscale all by itself without needing an upscaler, you can delete those profiles from your FrameMeister or your OSSC or whatever. Now you have more room for other things. You won't have to like take out an SD card, put it in your computer, swap the profiles out. It sounds like it is a really minor thing, but it's just kind of annoying to deal with.
You just wanna plug your thing in and go.
Small niggles pile up.
Yep.
Sorry.
But yeah. Oh, by the way, yeah, I think you were right on the price. I'm sorry, I was looking at the pounds.
Okay.
It's 162 pounds, which is $207. It's still a good price.
That's
for
still
this kind of
way better than the FrameMeister, yeah. And
exactly.
part of why it's cheaper is that it's open source, I believe.
Yeah,
because the FrameMeister was made by like a proprietary company.
Exactly. So even when people stop making this thing, or when the major supplier stops making it, it will.
Somebody can keep working on it. Yeah.
Exactly. So they'll continue making features and upgrading it and all kinds of stuff. So I'm excited for that. I have not plugged mine in yet because I've been so used to the FrameMeister, but I might completely switch over and get used to it. So I'm excited for that. And let me see here. There's a couple updates on the Super SD System 3, which is what the optical drive emulator for the PC Engine.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked about this way back when, but there were some problems with it, particularly in the video quality from the SCART connector and in the back of it. So it works very well in terms of being an optical drive emulator and putting those games out. However, the games don't sound and look good because of the poor job that they did with the audio and video on it. A guy named Voltar, who's pretty popular online, is making a board that will fix the RGB output, and he said he's almost finished with it. So I'm very excited for that because it will make it the perfect system. And Firebrand X also made an audio board that fixes the audio issues.
Nice.
So yeah, it sucks that you buy an expensive piece of technology and the company isn't interested in fixing it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But you have two really great fans that are fixing the two major problems with it. So at least there's that. So I'm looking forward to getting that in ship-shape condition. And the final thing I wanted to mention was Zen Studios, the makers of Pinball FX3, have announced 3 new Williams tables, which is Attack from Mars, which is a big one. Attack from Mars is a great game, really great pinball game. Party Zone, which is pretty good, and Black Rose, which is awesome. It's a pirate-themed one. In fact, it used to be the pinball game that Pinball Arcade came with, without having to pay for anything. So, very good example. It has like a cannon mechanic, which is a lot of fun.
Balls of steel.
I've got balls of steel. I can't believe that Apogee made a pinball game called Balls of Steel.
Yeah, that's so good.
It's so funny. But anyway,
it was actually, I fucking loved that because it was a really good pinball game.
It wasn't bad. Yeah, it was pretty good. All right. Well, I think that will be it for this week. We had a lot to talk about. Anything else that you guys wanted to mention before we move on for the day?
Let's explain more Austin Powers references.
Did you know that the rocket was
I'm not dead yet.
Like a Willy? Okay, I think we're done here.
Why don't we just get a gun and shoot him? I have a gun in my room.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
All right, that's the show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness and YouTube's Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages, and hopefully maybe I can talk.
And press the bell. Don't forget the bell because they will
ring that bell. Ding ding. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursday on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Switch, and Battle.net.
You could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you're interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games to Let's Play, or chatting with me and other patrons on the Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me on Skype, Steam, and on the Lair of the Crocodile on Discord chat.
All right. Well, we will catch everybody on Thursday.
Until next time, everyone.
Good evening.